Okay, so this is part three of the how to establish a kingdom in the world today. And I've just talked about having a kind of border, right, to protect, to regulate what's going on in this society. Because if this is doing well, right, that it needs to be protected, and so it can be preserved. Um, the other aspect is if you're doing well here, right, there's going to be some kind of pressure from the outside to either take it over or eliminate it, right? Because if this is still an established nation or society, this is very difficult to do, right? Because there's all kinds of defenses that will come in and try to destroy that to make this back to this, right? So that's why the only way how this is really possible if there's a destabilization in this surrounding or this the whole society, because when that happens there will be chaos and it's almost like a reset is taking place, and whoever has an organized force literally can move in and take over this whole thing. So you see how it can be advantageous for a foreign nation to cause a destabilization in the society so that they can move in with their organized force and take it over, right? They'll send troops to the energy plants, farms, manufacturing, broadcasting, everything. They'll take it all over just like that. The critical infrastructure for the society, they will take it over. So that's the goal, right? Then you conquer it, then it becomes your land. So we have to be aware for those things happening in our society, which it is happening in our society. Some people are denying it, but it's not even an opinion. It is happening. Okay, you can go to in this country into parliament and look up the bills that are being passed and what nations are buying and taking over critical infrastructure of our country. Okay, so it's not even an opinion; it's a fact, and this is where it leads. There's one reason why it's happening. So, anyways, if you have your little society that's being established, what's the next step like within that, right? If that's just your neighbors now that you have, well, you have to have a kind of organization. You have to be able to come together at regular intervals in some place, whether it be your house or a hall or a barn or whatever, to come together and plan the next steps, right? So that you have food for the year, you have wood for the year, you have things that you need. Some of the very basic things that are every society should have. Very basic core, no matter where you are in the world, is a well or some means of getting water, which could be as simple as digging a hole in the ground and allowing the water table to fill that up and using a bucket, boiling the water to purify it, and you can drink that. That's as simple as it is. Or you take the snow, right, and melt it, and you can use it to drink. Um, you need to have a forge, right, so that you can either salvage metals and things like that, melt them down so that they essentially become like clay, right? That's the whole point. You're melting down metal to not liquefying it, but you're softening it so that you can manipulate it into whatever shape you want for whatever purpose you need, and then you allow it to re-solidify. That's the purpose of a forge, right? You need to do that because there's certain things that you need tools, certain shapes to do. Um, and you can look up, there's simple ways to make forges, right? You just basically need to have coal and oxygen. So you add oxygen to increase the temperature of the of the combustion, right? So that you can melt metal easily or soften it. The other thing you need to have is obviously shelter, somewhere to sleep, somehow to heat your place of shelter. You need clothing, right? And that's a very it's a very difficult thing to make on your own, okay? Clothing itself is um if you made a loom, right, you can do that and use wool from rabbits or sheep or something into yarn, and you can actually make, threads, or you can use types of grass to weave into something which you would then have to turn into a type of what they call a textile fabric, and to now use it to make clothing, right? You need to be able to wash clothes. Okay, these are just basic things that you need to have. Okay, some of the most critical is water. Okay, food you can do. You need food, yes, but you need water more than you need food. Okay, and food you can get off things, even the tree bark, right? Certain trees, depending on where you live, you can get that even in the wintertime. I think the inner bark of a birch tree, the white tree here in Canada, is what the natives referred to as famine food that you can actually get some nutrients off of to survive. Okay, so all of these things you need at the very minimum. You also, in order for all these things to happen, you need to have hope, because if you don't have hope, it doesn't matter if you have a forge and all these things, you won't really be motivated to even do anything. But you have to have a greater goal, and that is to hope, to thrive for, well, for waiting for all that bad to pass, which it will. Because inevitably, if that society is going to fail, the best thing you can do is remove yourself from the society, wait for it to fail, and take those who are fleeing that and provide refuge for them from that situation. And yes, you will have to give up internet. You will have to do that. I mean, you don't even need it anyways. It can be used as a tool. It's pretty helpful, but it becomes an addiction for a lot of people. And it can actually stifle your growth, and it can cause a lot of confusion in somebody's mind as to what to actually believe. So basically, once you've gotten this, you need to be able to defend it, okay? And the best way of defense is, well, having people who are dedicated to protecting it, as in they can keep watch at night. They're being provided food and other things that they need for them and their families to be able to defend and protect that land. And they can do that in all kinds of different ways. They don't have to get into detail why defense is important, okay? But it just is. Because if someone's coming to you with a gun, well, why are they doing that? If they're coming to you with a gun, they either have one intention, which is to eliminate you and whoever else gets in their way, or is to be threatening. Okay, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to use it, but it's a lot. You can't leave that up to knowing till afterwards, because there might not be an afterwards to ask questions. And of course, I'm saying that that's in the case of no current establishment, as in that establishment is failing. It's lost its stabilization. Okay, its stability, I should say. So that's important to have defense. Obviously, if you had a bigger territory, then your defense methods will have to be a bit more advanced. Um, but that's a bit more of a specific topic that, again, I don't want to get into right now. Um, because in order to do that, you need lots of, not even just funding, as in money, but you need lots of resources and expertise in certain areas to make something that's capable of defending against what is currently the weapons currently established, which is very very well tuned, I should say. So if you really if you really wanted to work on defense systems, you need very specialized knowledge in that area to do that. But we're not going to go there right now. Um, and, also, another thing that you'll need for this society is, um, obviously means of transportation, and the best method, if there's, um, the best method would be, if there's no other means, is a horse, right? All you have to do is feed them hay, make sure you have enough hay for the winter, make sure they're well maintained, groomed, and warm, and you have somewhere to keep them, right? Horses are great because not only can they transport, you can also do work with them. They're like a tractor and like a car at the same time. Different breeds of horses can provide different strengths and weaknesses for different tasks. So, and obviously cars are good, but they're limited because how the heck are you going to fuel a car if you don't have any means of getting fossil fuel or refining that? If you did have it, how the heck are you going to refine that? Like, it is possible. It's not incredibly difficult, but to have it on a large scale, you need to have lots of resources at your disposal, and very specific resources. Like, we're not talking about just crude, some pot that you made at the forge, right? Like, you need certain standards of materials that fit within certain standards that aren't going to fail, especially when it's something so crucial as that. Um, like, of course, you could make your own fuel, something called like biofuel from um, decomposing organic matter, especially sugary vegetables or sugary fruits or like sugar cane, right? You can also get it out of wood, something called like, you can make a device called a wood gasifier, which can give you charcoal, but the flammable gas that comes off wood when you heat it, it collects that, compresses it, and you can store it and actually use it in a motor to run your vehicle. But those were used during hard times, the Great Depression, World War II, things like that. So if you wanted to look into that, that's actually a pretty interesting concept. If you can build one of these, and they're not that big, they can fit. They're like half the size of a car, depending on the size, right? So they're not huge devices, but they need to be made well, and you need to know how to run it. So you can still do that. It would be pretty useful, I see, if you have an application for it. The other thing that you need besides the transport, you still need to, how the heck are you going to build your houses, right? Actually, I'm just going to restart here so the video doesn't go too long. Houses.